Let me ask you a question. Do you think your job is helping or preventing you from achieving optimal health? And I'm asking this question because I've noticed a lot of people out there, their day job is in the way of being healthy. Their day job is causing stress, anxiety, disrupts the sleep routine, prevents you from taking the time to cook your meals from scratch, spending time in nature, etc., etc. It's all around our day jobs, our way we make money that gets in the way of optimal health. And so for this episode, I've invited Laura and Erin, who both work for Mark Sisson Primal Health Coach Institute. And both of them realized as well that their job in finance and marketing was making them sick. And so they quit and decided to do something completely different. And so in this episode, it's going to be a super interesting because I think there is a lot of information that we discuss that can help you figure out how you can make changes to the way you earn money and obtain optimal health in the process. So welcome with me, Laura and Erin, and let's get right into the discussion. All right, Erin, Laura, thanks so much for joining me today. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than the ones I've had in the past, but it's, I think, a very important one because, as I alluded to in the intro, one of the most detrimental factors for obtaining optimal health in the best case scenario, but just better health for most people, is really our day job. Because that's the one that puts us under artificial light all day, prevents us from being connected to nature, prevents us from having the time, to prepare our own meals, to source our food, and doing all of the things that are necessary for optimal health. So the question is, how can you improve your health? Or in other words, what can you do about the way you earn money, right? To make it more conducive for you, easier for you to improve not only your own health, but to share what I've learned or what you've learned with the people around you so they can benefit from that as well. And in fact, I think it's your journey. It's also my journey. I didn't start out saying, hey, I want to become a health influencer. No, I wanted to improve my own health. And I figured, well, why not share what I've learned so others can benefit from that as well, right? And so maybe with that, and now, here I am, with podcasts and, supplements business, all of the things that come with it, making it possible to earn a living while at the same time every day allowing me to work on my own health and sharing with my audience what I've learned. And so maybe Laura and Erin, let's tell the audience what journey you've gone through, what you've learned, and why you decided to ultimately change your job for the purpose of improving your own health and helping others to do the same.
So it's funny, when Erin and I first met, we were the first two employees at the school Erin and I both work for. We both came from separate countries even, right? But we had very similar story in terms of our day job, and sort of where we came from was a part of the problem for us both in our own health journey. In my case, I was in finance. I spent 25 years in finance. The last 12 of which I spent on the road, Michael. I mean, I was in the car every single day. Talk about not being able to pack food. I mean, I couldn't keep it good. When I finally learned a lot more about my own health, I did legitimately look at buying a refrigerator for my car to carry perishable food in. But look, I was entertaining clients all the time. So I ate out all the time. There's a lot of traps hidden there when you're eating at restaurants every single day. Not being able to really have the time to prepare my own meals. I was working 60 hours a week. There was a lot of drinking involved. Again, a lot of entertainment in that world. And the stress, it was a sales position. So I had these goals I have to meet. And back then, anyone that's listening that is in sales, it's not like if you have a banner year, you can take it easy the next year. Oh, no. They raise your bogey, right? They raise your target. So you have to work even harder. So it's this chronic hamster wheel of this just really bad environment. Yeah, I got to eat out at fancy restaurants, but guess what? Fancy restaurants still cook in canola oil. You're lucky if they cook in canola oil instead of soybean oil. All their dressings are made with that kind of stuff. So when I realized that the actual day job I was in was part of the problem, I became very hyper aware, and I did the best I could in terms of hacking it. I learned how to ask what their ingredients were at a restaurant. When I didn't have a meal, I did try to pack things. I got very good at understanding what would be okay in my car. I would go sit at a park and sit outside and eat lunch instead of sitting in a restaurant whenever possible. So I did my best. But at the end of the day, a lot of the clients that I went to go see, instead of talking about my global bond fund, I was talking about why I was special ordering my salad. And then they would ask me questions. And I found myself talking about this stuff more than I was ever really talking about what I was there supposed to talk about. And then when I started hearing things like, why are you still doing this? Like, I enjoy seeing you, but clearly you're passionate about something else. And I know that many of your listeners probably hear that. Boy, you should really do this. You're so passionate about it. You should think about doing it. And that's when I started taking it seriously. And it's when I took my first course. My thought was, I don't really need the money. I made really good money back then, but I wanted to be able to help other people. And that was my initial come from. I didn't really entertain the idea of leaving full time until following that path, realizing how much good I can do and that there is a market and a need for it, that I finally eventually transitioned.
Right.
So that's my story. And I know Erin's got a great one too.
I'll share mine in 2 anecdotes, actually. So I came from the advertising industry, which is just notoriously hectic. If you ever watched Mad Men, right? It's like, why was it like that? Why were they pulling all-nighters to come up with the headline for the advertising campaign? I don't know what it is about that industry, but it prides itself on being chaotic. The first anecdote I want to share is, this is going to sound completely out of left field, but if you guys ever heard of the FIRE community, FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's a big, big community. The idea behind the FIRE community is you learn how to extract yourself from the workforce by, sensible spending and investing, and you get to just quit your job and retire early into your life, right? So I've always been very interested in this for the obvious reasons. I mean, it just sounds good. Financial independence, retire early. I'm in. Let's go. So I was listening to one of these FIRE podcasts. This guy was recapping his first year of retirement. And he said, the things I didn't think of that were going to be so, first of all, difficult, but also eye-opening. He said, the time I have to devote to feeding myself adequately, the time I have to devote to moving my body around, being in nature, moving, breathing, taking necessary rest. He said, I knew when I left left the workforce that my life was going to change, but I didn't know my health was going to change. I didn't realize that when I was really in the workforce, it precluded me from being able to make normal, healthy human choices. This guy's not in the gym training like a bodybuilder. He's not trying to reach some next level. He's literally able to take care of himself because he doesn't have to. In a lot of ways, the modern work environment really, really does get in the way, no matter what industry you're in, whether it's a hectic one like Laura and I were in, or if you work at the paint department at the Home Depot. The reality is you got to be there. You're dealing with the stressors of your job. Your schedule is very owned by your employer. It does make it really hard. It makes it very hard. It's just harder to execute daily healthy behaviors when you're in the workforce. I know this sounds crazy. My second anecdote is when I became unwell, I was pre-diabetic. I got diagnosed pre-diabetic, which didn't make sense because I've been doing fitness and I was a professional dieter my whole life. I was addicted to fitness, but my doctor said, yeah, you do a lot of things right, but there's a lot of other reasons why people become pre-diabetic. I mean, it could be stress. And she just lobbed that out at me. And I was like, what? Are you serious? Nobody had ever, in my decades in the fitness industry, nobody had ever mentioned that. So I quit my job on the grounds of this stress was making me unhealthy. That's irresponsible. Like, no one's going to go do that. I literally did it for that reason. I was like, nope, I'm out. And then I went into, I became a health coach. I wanted to really, spread this gospel to people and be an authority. So I came back into the workforce, but in a lighter capacity. I left my really hectic job because it was the thing that was ultimately ruining my health, and it was just never going to be worth it for me. I know that sounds completely crazy, and I don't advocate doing that. Neither Laura nor I advocate leaving your job cold like that, but I did because I recognized immediately I would like to be healthy, and that actually trumps almost everything for me. It's a values-based decision for me at the end of the day. And guess what? I didn't starve. I didn't end up homeless, but I did end up way healthier. So I think it worked out.
Yeah. My story in comparison, is kind of boring because I kind of liked my job. I liked my job. It was just not, that fulfillment that I was looking for. I realized that, technology was no longer my passion. It's become health and fitness simply because, obviously, technology is all around me and all around us really. But I'm like, it's not really something that's essential, for obtaining happiness. I don't need automated home. I can just as well, flip the switch without negatively impacting how happy I am. But health is a different thing. And so I discovered that health was my true passion, and I slowly started taking it more seriously. And as you said, there is a demand. There is almost everyone that is not in the health niche is looking to improve their health, right? I mean, obviously we all are, but probably on a higher level, we are trying to, I guess, optimize rather than fixing, major issues. But the majority of people out there have issues that they either think, they have to live with, or they're desperately trying to find ways to fix them and don't get the answers that they are looking for, or they get answers that just don't make any sense, or that make the situation even worse, especially if you go with, the USDA dietary guidelines. The other day I saw a post on Instagram of like a checkout note from a cardiologist, that was handed, or a handout to the patient, what they should eat, like whole grains, 6 to 7 servings a day, pasta and bread. And I'm like, how on earth, is that even possible in today's age, that a cardiologist gives dietary advice that's so misguided? And so a lot of people are struggling. And as we, already discussed, the day job is really a major contributing factor. I think if nobody had a normal job, people would just by default be healthier and have more, I guess, mental bandwidth also to think about the decisions, dietary decisions, sleep-related decisions, all of those things that should just be a regular part of our routine. But nobody has the mental bandwidth. Everyone is so on the edge, so stressed out, so overloaded with activities and all kinds of things that nobody has time to make the right decisions. Just going with the flow appears to be easier in doing what everybody else is doing. Unfortunately, what everybody else is doing ain't working, evidently.
I was going to say, this is what I work on with my clients. This is literally what I spend my days as a health coach working on with my clients, is not how much of what to eat or, how much exercise of what to do. It's how to fit this behavior into the actual realities of their hectic, chaotic lives.
Right.
They're trying to figure out when to eat. When am I going to feed myself? When am I going to go to bed? When am I going to take a walk? They have no idea. They've lost the plot on when to squeeze in the essentials of human health into the context of their busy lives. This is the opportunity for health coaches, is to get into people's lives for them.
Before you can coach someone, you have to learn, those concepts yourself, right? So you have to educate yourself, and you have to take ultimately your health into your own hands. You cannot just assume someone else is going to do it for you. Big food, big pharma, the government, whoever, none of those entities have your health, are interested in your health. There are other motivating factors out there. It's not your health. And so you cannot be an autopilot. You have to learn, you have to ask questions, you have to educate yourself. And I understand that by going through, a formal course, a formal certification that focuses on, I guess, on functional medicine, on the more primal aspects of health, going back to the basics, doing what has been working for humans for a very long time, depending on, when you make the cut, but let's say, 10,000s of years, 100,000, millions of years, if we take our ancestors into account. Those are concepts, fundamental concepts that are ingrained in our DNA. And by just taking those as a template, and applying them to our modern life, which is, ultimately what the Primal Shift podcast is all about. You can make significant changes without having to, get distracted by all the noise and the different, conflicting studies and opinions and everything that's out there, by just going back to the basics and educating yourself. And I think that's exactly what you guys offer, isn't it?
That's why we're called the Primal Health Coach Institute. We have that name in common for a reason. I think after talking with you and knowing what we teach, the concepts are identical. This concept of primal meaning kind of primary, right? That initial root of what it means to be human, those foundational human concepts. And when I talk to people that are drawn to our school about what it was that drew them to us, it's once they understand, maybe they've heard Mark Sisson, our primary founder, or they've read a book, or they've listened to you. What I hear all the time is it just makes so much common sense. You said something earlier where some of the advice they're given just doesn't make sense because someone else is selling them something for their own profit, not the end user's benefit. And so when it comes to our program, we stand very firmly rooted in this term primal to mean this foundational sort of ancestral health, more functional medicine-based philosophy. And here's the thing that comes up quite a bit too, and I want to frame it in a good way. You also said something to the effect of sometimes the help you're seeking actually makes matters worse, and that how is it in today's world cardiologists can still be given that advice. And it's because cardiologists are not taught nutrition. Right. What education they are getting, maybe they took a class for half a semester 20 years ago, back when the diet heart hypothesis hadn't been debunked. It has now since been debunked. But also, the people that actually underpin and pay for educational pieces, ongoing education, are the food industry, the processed food industry. Coca-Cola is a leading funder, guys. So here's what I will tell you. If you talk to some of the more sort of out-of-the-box thinkers in medicine that have written books, cardiologists that have written books that say the opposite, they recognize this, and they will be the first ones to tell you doctors understand illness and they understand how to treat an illness with a pharmaceutical or surgery, but they don't understand wellness and how to be well. It's not something they're trained in. And here's the thing with health coaching, we are an unregulated industry, which sometimes can be viewed as a negative thing for some reason. Well, there's really aren't any legal standards, which is true, but it's also why we as a profession do a pretty good job of policing ourselves. But it's a good thing in that I don't have to go out and tout the food pyramid because I'm not a regulated industry. I'm allowed to teach coaching and ask my client to be a critical thinker and curious about, hey, does this advice make sense to you? Why or why not? Let's talk about something that makes some common sense. And when has this proven to be true for you? We bring in this coaching conversation and overlay it with common sense principles that allows the client to be like, duh, right? So we are an unregulated industry that allows us to put advice and education within the context of the coaching relationship and give the client the tools and the empowerment and the confidence they need to affect change. That's what we do.
And you mentioned foundational. I wanted to talk about that term real quick because, a lot of people, when they think especially about nutrition, they think of diets, keto, paleo, carnivore, vegan, whatever the case might be. But the idea really is that you guys teach a framework, right? That so the individual nutrition or diet for someone, I don't even want to call it diet, but let's dietary lifestyle, might be different between, various individuals because their needs might be different. If you're exercising a lot and depleting a lot of glycogen stores all the time, then maybe consuming more carbs than someone who doesn't, might be beneficial. If you're a pro athlete, your diet is likely going to be more performance oriented, and someone who is more after longevity might have, a slightly different diet. But there are certain frameworks or foundations, dietary foundations, that I think we all can agree on are likely more beneficial for humans than something else. Right. And so when someone thinks about, primal health coaching, that doesn't necessarily mean paleo diet or, carnivore diet or keto diet, whatever. It obviously overlaps between all of those diets. And I think those form the foundation, optimal human nutrition. Would you agree?
We completely agree.
We talk about focusing on, again, kind of going back to early humans. They ate what was local to them and in season. And they naturally knew where the most nutrient-dense foods were. They prioritized, though, and they prized animal foods. We were opportunistic eaters. We ate what we had access to that was local, fresh, and in season. And from there, you can build a diet based on your preferences, your needs. Look, for good or bad, we now have access to, avocados out of season.
Right.
Should we be eating them out of season? It's certainly better than other options. Right?
There's a lot of different ways to approach this too. So, I consider myself an old school paleo girl. When they didn't even have keto bread when I went paleo. We just stopped eating bread. It was not even an option. But I don't tell my clients they're becoming primal. We don't even talk about that. My clients don't know that they're going on a primal diet. But I use these ancestral concepts to help them understand why the conventional wisdom was not serving them. A really good example that I often come up against, and maybe we all do, is my clients will say to me, I'm really concerned about eating this much meat, right? Because I'm encouraging them to eat more protein and to obviously move away from the grains. By the way, I don't tell my clients to stop eating grains. I hope I don't lose my paleo card. But that's not where we start. I start with, let's eat more protein. Let's get more protein. And they always say, this feels like so much meat, so much protein, because now they're eating an adequate amount. They were eating an inadequate amount before, now they're eating a normal amount. So I first of all will say, well, you're not eating too much, you're just eating enough. But the meat thing, of course, that narrative, I'll say, I want you to zoom out and imagine your ancestors. Whether you believe in the hunter-gatherers or not, just go with me on this. Maybe it's your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, or maybe it's our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Do you think they were moderating their intake of the most nutrient-dense food on planet Earth? No. If they got the antelope, they ate the whole thing till it was gone. Right. Yeah. And I'll say also, let's think about this from the other animals in the animal kingdom. No one's stressing about the cholesterol levels of lions or sharks. We're meat-eating animals too. And although that probably sounds like I'm some kind of kindergarten teacher doing a science lesson, that's what our clients kind of need. They really do need it simplified. But the last thing they need is more jargon, more anti-food guide, food pyramid sort of language. That's not going to help them. I want to help them understand at a level that they can understand, or at least start to open their mind to it. And the ancestral health model is just so useful for that. Honestly, we're obviously all big fans of it, but that's one of the reasons I like it for general population people who aren't already indoctrinated in primal paleo, just to kind of like let them think about, the ancient wisdom of their body is a really cool thing to anchor to.
So now, of course, the $1,000,000 question is, if I'm out there, I listen to the episode, I say, you know what, I'd really like to get out of that hamster wheel. I'd like to do something else. I don't know yet if, teaching health and wellness is going to be my ultimate champ, but I want to give it a try. I want to do something different for sure, experience better health and happiness. Tell those people, how can they get their feet wet and see if this is something they might be interested in?
So there's a couple layers here. If you're just curious and you want to kind of stalk us from the periphery, listen to our podcast, Health Coach Radio. That's our target audience, are aspiring and practicing health coaches. And this includes the health coaching curious, people that just want to understand a little bit more about it. We also have a blog that we publish for every single week. And there's tons of this stuff out there. So that's kind of really easy in terms of just understanding what health coaching is. If you check out our website, it's just primalhealthcoach.com. That's the website for the full institute, where you can get a feel for all the programs and courses that we have. We have many. If you're not sold on the idea of becoming a health coach, but you have an interest in just learning more about the lifestyle, or you want to understand more about your gut and microbiome health, we have courses for that. But if somebody listening now is like, wow, I really do think I want to know more about this, like directly from our website, you can just book a call with me. It's just 20 minutes. It's like having coffee. It's not even really a date, right? And it'll just give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And what we could give you, Michael, is the link to the curriculum guidebook for the program so they can see what's in it. But our core program teaches all three core tenets: health and nutrition science, not just general principles and healthy, like science. Okay. We teach coaching skills. Otherwise, we're not a coaching course. Giving people advice will only get them so far. You need to really help them over the hump and get out of their own sort of emotional and psychological challenges. And we teach you business. Many of the programs out there kind of stop short there. They're like, great, we taught you how to be a coach, go have a great time. We're like, no. Now how are you going to use it? How are you going to take everything we taught you, plus everything you bring to the table? Erin and I talk about all the time that your own life experience has a tremendous value for people that are coming up behind you. Share it. How can you take that, package it into something, a deliverable that solves a problem? Now you have a business. If you can't solve a problem, you don't have a business, but that business is only going to be successful if someone's willing to pay you for it. So they need to be willing to spend money on it. And we teach you how to do that in the business section of our program.
Okay. If you think about it, so, those three different pillars that you have as part of the program. Even if at the end of, let's say, I go through that, I get the certification, I'm now certified, primal health coach. And at some point I realize, well, I really like coaching. I like the idea of, running my own coaching business, but I'm not sure if health is going to be it. You can still leverage what you learn in the health and apply to yourself and your family maybe, or your loved ones, but use the two other modules to do it really in any industry. If sewing is your passion, or I don't know, whatever the case might be, you could still apply those, right? The business
100%
knowledge, and as well as the coaching knowledge. I mean, here's the thing. Coaching is important in every aspect of life, because you're always going to be coaching someone, if you want to or not. We are trying to coach or parent our kids, right? Sometimes I'm trying to coach my wife and the other way around. We are always in the business, I guess, not that we always earn money with it, but always trying to, help someone with something. And it's a life skill at the end of the day. And the better you are at it, I think the better it is overall for not only you, but also the community that you live in.
That's very true. I love that you brought that up. One of the courses that I teach at our school, so we have a lot of courses, as Laura's touched on, whether it's the main certification course, we have some specialty courses if you want to, drill down and specialize in things. And then we have some sort of next level courses, including this master coach course that I teach, which is a live taught course that really drills into the coaching relationship, the art and science of the coaching relationship. Also qualifies you to sit the board exam if you want to become a board certified health coach. But when I teach this course, a couple of things happen. First of all, people start having better conversations with everybody in their life. Right. When you learn how to have this coaching conversation, which really involves active listening, on some level we kind of know what that is, but we practice it. We actually literally practice the art of active listening and motivational interviewing and getting, values oriented sort of goal setting. This is incredibly useful. I've had students in this course who helped their college age kids make a college decision, or they worked with their spouse to decide on a new bank because they were able to have a coaching conversation. So it is absolutely a life skill. And the other thing is what happened in this course one time, the coaches have to go away and do a lot of practice coaching. And this is kind of facilitated with some of our faculty. So there's a ton of practice built in. And in one of these practice sessions, the client shows up at these practice coaching sessions with just whatever, like some kind of invented scenario. And then the coach's job is to work them through it. And this client showed up in the scenario wanting to make a big career change. He was a high-level executive at his company and he was feeling uninspired and unsupported. And the coach ended up having a career coaching conversation. The conversation never at any moment touched health. It was purely a career coaching conversation, and it was masterful. And so when the session was done, I said to the coach, like, Bob, have you done career coaching before? He said, no. He was like, I drive a dump truck. I don't know anything about the corporate world or what this guy's dealing with, this executive level CEO guy. But he coached him masterfully because coaching is coaching is coaching. It is such a crucial skill. And it's really, there is a framework to it as well. Like, you do want to learn this framework to get people to their goals and the outcomes. And the coach is a really nimble partner. I think that's where a lot of people who get into this industry think they're going to be the boss. Like, I'm going to tell you what to do. I've got the clipboard. I've got the Mac, whatever. I got the rules. You're going to follow my rules. That's not coaching. And that doesn't really help people.
Yeah, that's why whenever someone approaches me and says, hey, can you coach me with this or that? I'm like, nope, I'm a terrible coach, because I expect you do what I say. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
It would help. I will say that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because the coach is ultimately a leader. A coach is a leader in the relationship, and the coach shows up to the relationship with an expertise that the client is ultimately paying for. Absolutely. Right. But it's this idea of imagining that the coach is showing up with this expertise and the client is showing up with their expertise of their lived experience and what is working and not working in their lives and what they want and what's important to them. And it's a co-creation. It's a true equal partnership. We're going to create this really bespoke experience for you that blends my knowledge with your knowledge. And then it's actually personalized, which is pretty cool because Laura touched on the fact that we are an unregulated profession. So what you hear a lot is, well, we can't give personalized nutrition or health advice. We're not allowed to do that in a manner of speaking. But we can, because we get with people. We get with the person. We're in a personal relationship, a personal partnership with a person. So it is personalized to them. It is a very bespoke experience. But you have to, you do have to show up with your leadership energy and also allow the leadership energy of the client.
I was just about to say, going back to the path, into a coaching program. Is that something I can do in the evening? To go through the modules and everything. If I don't want to quit my day job, cold turkey like you all did, how would it work practically, for someone who wants to pursue that?
That's a great question. So the main certification is a self-directed online course. We do set some pacing. You're going to gain access to a chapter a week. We don't allow people to crush through it as fast as humanly possible. Hey, I earned a certificate. It's a chapter a week, but you handle that on your own time, and you can take longer if you need to. It's built for a busy working adult that has other commitments. All right, maybe 5 hours a week, right, Erin? To get through each chapter or so. It's 23 total chapters between the 3 pillars, so it'll take you 6 months to get through it, and you study whenever you're ready. Programs like the one Erin was talking about, Master Coach, those are taught live, but they're shorter. They're 12 weeks. She's got one cohort that she teaches in the evening, another cohort she teaches midday, so we can find one that fits you if you decide you want that advanced course. Right. But in terms of moving out of your career, I did not just quit. I worked my ever-loving tail off in my quote-unquote spare time. Once I decided to take it seriously, I will fully admit the first 2 years, I didn't treat it like a business. It was definitely more like a hobby. I picked up people completely randomly on the soccer field and at the grocery store. I never really had more than 2 or 3 clients at a time early on. It wasn't until a lot more serious that I took steps, and I actually opened a gym. I had some people that were running that gym until it was producing. And I came from the finance world. I'm a naturally risk-averse person. I know how numbers work, and I didn't leave until I was ready to financially leave. And I was willing to put in the extra time because I was hungry for it. And then I eventually moved. So here's the thing that's cool with health coaching. Most of your clients are going to meet with you when they're off too. They'll talk in the early morning before work or on a lunch break or after work or on the weekends. So you could absolutely be building your business on the side during when you would ordinarily not be working. And more people now in their other profession have far more flexible schedules as well. Yep. This is one of the, I don't know if I'd really call it a benefit, but a change that happened during the pandemic of people whose sort of work schedules shifted. So you can absolutely take this in your own time.
Cool. So you said 6 months for the foundational certification, the first step basically. And I mean, just by that, that should tell you everything you need to know about how much you learn. If it takes you 6 months to go through the entire coursework, you're going to have a very good understanding of not only the health aspect of everything, but also the coaching, the business side of things. So I think it's a very valuable tool that's out there that I think, a lot of people should consider, especially if they're not super happy in their current role and, maybe, have less than optimal health, which I would argue applies to the majority of people out there. And so that's great. And so how was the company, just, very briefly at the end, how did it all start? You mentioned before Mark Sisson, who I really love Mark's content and all the brands he's out there. The kids still every day, Primal kitchen ketchup and mayo. They mix it actually to make pink sauce, we call it, and they put it on everything. Even they eat, fruits with it. I'm like, I don't know how why you would do that, but they love it. And the Palooza shoes, obviously, I wear them every day. So a lot of good stuff, has come out of Mark's side. So and he is one of the co-founders, I understand, of your institute as well, right?
Well, he's obviously one of the godfathers of the Primal Paleo movement, right? Yeah. So he's one of the heroes. And, he had his blog for, gosh, how many, 20 years, 15, 20 years he's been writing his blog now? I mean, he's foundational. He's our ancestor in a manner of speaking. And Mark always had this lofty goal. He wanted to influence the lives of, I think it was 10 million people. He's since escalated that 100 million people. And so, this is scaling 101. Mark reached a lot of people by himself. And then he realized he kind of needed it. He really wanted to have this army of like primal foot soldiers. So he, converted his curriculum, all the things he'd learned and taught and researched and all the books he's written, the Primal Blueprint, just an epic book that everybody should have on their bookshelf as far as I'm concerned, and turned it into an online course, which at first was meant for people to take for personal development, personal health development, but then quickly realized that we need to certify coaches who are experts in this. So converted it to a health coaching program. And we've since, we were one of the earliest health coaching schools in the game. The whole industry has really exploded. And so we've been growing and changing our curriculum as the health coaching industry has grown and changed. But the origin, like the genesis of the school was Mark and Mark's point of view, and this very unique point of view that really counters the conventional wisdom. And Mark always did it in such a non-dogmatic way. That's, I think, why people really like Mark, is he's not crazy about it. Mark is a very moderate person. If you ever hang out with Mark, he's going to probably have some bread at the dinner, and he's probably going to have a couple extra glasses of red wine, and he's not a strict dude. He really lives a really cool human life, and so he's just a nice guru to anchor to in that way. And I like that we're training our coaches in that same, for the most part, in that same sort of non-dogmatic way. Now, having said that, we have a lot of coaches who are strict carnivore coaches, super strict keto coaches, high performance coaches. You can take this ancestral model. There's a million ways to execute it, but it all comes back to foundations of Mark Sisson's teaching.
Yeah, and I think that, as you said, it resonates, having a non-dogmatic approach that is practical at the end of the day has a much higher success rate than trying to be, you have to only eat meat or only eat this and you cannot ever have X, Y, Z. I'm a fairly black and white person, and usually whenever I want to do something, I go all in and just bulldoze over everything that's in my way, which is not always a great strategy. And then it kind of, walk back from there and say, okay, I've proven to myself I can do it. Now let's see what is really practical that we can do with the kids, as a family, and with extended family maybe when we have them over. And so I've also, kind of dialed it back to a more practical approach to not only understand, okay, what foods are good for me, but also how to process certain foods. And by that, I don't mean, buying processed foods in the store, but, to ferment, to sprout maybe, to soak, to do all of those things that humans have learned over the years, over decades, to make some of the foods that are arguably not the most conducive to optimal health, more conducive, I guess, and to reduce the risk of adverse side effects and incorporate that in a somewhat modern life that I think everyone can do. You don't have to be crazy about anything. There are many things that you can do if you have the right foundation and the foundation and knowledge, which is what you guys teach, to implement those things.
Exactly.
So that's why I also like, Mark's approach very much.
I'm happy to hear that you self-identify as a black or white person, and then you realize to actually get this to fit into my family life, I'm going to need to temper this black and whiteness. I'm going to need to be okay with partial measures.
Right.
I think that's amazing. That's really crucial. This is my plea to any health coach out there is the black and white methodology might work for you, but probably doesn't work for regular people.
Right.
We need to figure out the small little incremental steps that we can do. Those small incremental steps make massive difference, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do. It's funny as a coach too, I think you will attract more people if they don't feel like you're judging them all the time. If everything is always so black and white and you're constantly producing memes and making fun of people that eat bread or whatever, just start hosting all the holiday dinners at my house because I could control the food. And the first year I did it, I didn't make standard anything. I made a paleo or whole food version of everything. And there was some of it that people really, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was basically the feedback I got. And then over time, it was, I'm going to make things, it's what you eat most of the time that matters.
Right. Yeah.
It's really not what you eat on occasion. And so if, a traditional green bean casserole or stuffing just makes someone's Thanksgiving that much better, okay, I'm going to make it, but I'm going to make it from scratch and it's going to be delicious and all this other stuff. And the dogmatic judgmentalness needs to go away. People will be less likely to approach you for help if they think you're judging them in some way.
Yes.
You need to be approachable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree. We've had those Thanksgivings too. All right, cool. My wife makes sourdough bread, and that's the stuffing. So, and whoever wants to eat it, eats it. Whoever wants to abstain from it, can do so as well. Anyway, well, I think with that, we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, Laura and Erin, for spending the time with me. I'm going to include all of the links you sent me in the show notes so people can check you out, and I hope they will. Good stuff, even if you only apply that knowledge to yourself and maybe to your loved ones, but think about it, if you really want to get out of that hamster wheel, maybe take that extra step, start coaching other people, helping other people at the end of the day. On the side, you'll see if those the feedback that you get is likely a very motivating factor to do more of it, because the more positive you get back, the more likely you want to do more of that. And at some point you might realize, well, you know what, I'm actually earning more money now than in my day job, which was the case for me. And so I'm like, now I can actually quit the hobby which used to be my primary income, and focus really on the stuff that I'm passionate about. And so I hope that more people can go that route and experience the same journey.
Nice. We need more.
All right. Sounds good. Cool. Well, thank you very much. And I'll hope you see you guys soon.
Perfect. Thank you.